In this one, I'll once again be discussing the subject of predictive policing, but first to talk about my attempt to delegate. So on May 22nd, the Peel Regional Police Board held a meeting, and I made this presentation right here that I submitted to the board on May 18th. I emailed it directly to an email where you're supposed to submit your presentations, and also directly to various board members. And when submitting this directly to Nando Ianica, who is the board chair, what happened was somebody named Shovani Somalia ended up replying, "I don't have a visual for reference, unfortunately." But she replied saying that they have to relate to a board agenda item. Basically, she replied saying that what I was bringing up would have to relate to a board agenda item. So you can find the board agenda right here, and you can also find the meeting video. Two of the things that I brought up that are mentioned are NuEnergy.ai, which is who Peel Police uses for their predictive policing, and also Bill C22 is mentioned in here, which will be mentioned in my presentation. So two of the agenda items were brought up, and when I had informed her that I was doing this, what happened was then my email was blocked. I was blocked from replying. So what happened was then I decided to email Nando directly notifying them that I was blocked, and the two agenda items are very clearly on the agenda. And someone working for the region of Peel, who I also do not have a visual reference for, named Anna May Jung, said she forwarded my email to Shivani. So refusing to solve the problem and playing mind games with me, essentially, I submitted a complaint. And when I was emailed again by Shivani herself, basically saying once again that items would have to be related to the agenda, when I replied, I was reblocked. So I ended up leaving a voicemail expressing my dissatisfaction with the Peel Regional Police Board and their lack of professionalism, and that it's apparent that they don't actually want anybody criticizing predictive policing or really anything on their agenda as far as I'm concerned. And because NuEnergy.ai and Bill C22 were right on their agenda, and I followed their criteria. So I ended up submitting a follow-up complaint after more emails I received not solving the problem, just playing more mind games. So I have received an email saying that both of my complaints are amalgamated into one and that they're in the screening process, we'll say. So we'll see what comes of that. But anyway, here's my presentation, AI Neural Networks and Predictive Policing utilized by NuEnergy.ai and Peel Police. So through Public Services and Procurement Canada, together with the Treasury Board of Canada Secretariat, they held a procurement process for who could provide the Government of Canada with AI services, solutions, and products. And federal government departments and agencies across Canada can use these pre-qualified suppliers to launch a streamlined procurement process to obtain AI solutions. Right, so there are various examples of this, and by the way, I will leave links in the description like I do with all my videos. But some examples of AI suppliers include Microsoft, Accenture, NuEnergy.ai, of course, and then Palantir Technologies, who Palantir Gotham, I believe, is actually utilized by Calgary Police Service, as well as the Ontario Provincial Police. So, and that's brought up in this presentation, and I brought it up in the last one. But anyway, NuEnergy.ai is a pioneer in the AI governance space, and they've been around since 2018 and are headquartered in Ottawa, Canada. And their data scientists and developers deal with machine learning, AI, and software development for both the private and public sectors. And they work with different tools from facial recognition, predictive analytics, more specifically predictive policing, and social network analytics and license plate readers. and they themselves acknowledge a degree of the bias that comes with predictive policing, but although the criticisms are a little bit, you could say, vanilla here from them in particular. And so the Ontario Law Commission, or the Law Commission of Ontario, identify predictive policing here in this article, law enforcement use of AI. And so, of course, both Calgary Police Service and the OPP make use of Palantir's Gotham system. And Palantir described it on their website as a commercially available AI-ready operating system that improves and accelerates decisions for operators across roles in all domains. Sounds vague enough. Now, as recently as 2022, the OPP had refused to publicly disclose how it uses the program and they said to protect investigative and intelligence techniques. And also the Calgary Police Service used the product, but it says it's not for predictive or algorithmic policing, only for social network analysis. Right. Okay, if you say so. So right here we have the IEC article, Artificial Intelligence Enhancing the Trustworthiness of Neural Networks. So a neural network is a type of AI inspired by the structure and functioning of the human brain. And there are various examples of it, like Alexa or Siri, to self-driving vehicles and personalized recommendation systems. So neural networks consist of interconnected nodes, also known as artificial neurons or units, which are organized in layers. And basically each neuron takes input, processes it using a specific weight and bias, and produces an output that is fed forward to the next layer. And the whole point of this is for the neural networks to learn from data through a process called training, where they adjust their weights and biases to make quote-unquote better predictions or decisions over time. Right. So this is pretty much the basis for predictive policing right here is neural network computing, which I'll adapt on even a little more later. And then, of course, the joint ISO and IEC Committee on AI Subcommittee 42. That's a subcommittee of Joint Technical Committee 1 on IT. And they're developing what is the ISO IEC 24029 series to basically deal with neural networks. This is Crystal Vander Elst, who also happens to be a member of the IEC, and she is the Director General of Policy Horizons. So from this article, Metascan 3 in 2014, Policy Horizons' latest foresight study, well, definitely not the latest now, but their foresight study examines how digital, bio, nano, and neuroscience technologies will shape the Canadian economy and society over the next 10 to 15 years. And they say that the next 10 to 15 years will be an era of transition in areas like healthcare, transport, and security. And bear in mind, this is from 2014. And they deal with constant monitoring and surveillance and use of nano and biosensors, as well as brain-computer interfaces, AI, smart devices that'll know a person's movements and location within 10 centimeters, and they'll make it possible to infer a person's activity, behavior, interactions, and relationships. It'll be increasingly difficult for individuals to go unnoticed, especially when they see that AI can identify people from face and gait or demeanor, and determine the behavior of those without smart devices by looking at those who do so. And constant monitoring and surveillance enhance public health and environmental and personal security. And, for example, in emergency situations, sensors, AI, and machine-to-machine communication make it easier to locate and identify people and their needs. As privacy becomes a major issue, there may be a need to rethink the balance between public and private interests and liberties. This article from 2025, Foresight on AI, it says that neurotechnology could be increasingly used to read people's thoughts or anticipate their movements in real time. And it can be applied in more ethically fraught contexts like police and military or worker surveillance. I know this is all familiar from the previous video I made. This is a 2013 article from Policy Horizons, Neurotechnology and Cognitive Sciences. So of course you get to neural network computing, which can be used for detecting emotions and moods, right? As we were talking about putting in a weight of sorts to a neural unit. and then that would adjust its weight or bias to have it make so-called better decisions, right? And so they use this for detecting emotions and moods, and people can look at James Scott's delegations for that, especially when he brings up CCTV cameras and OC Transpo. But anyway, which is the transit company in Ottawa. So then you get into proactive software agents, software applications with the capacity of discerning and predicting likely future needs, stuff like that. Probably looking to SCADA for that. As well, something James has brought up in Ottawa. Neural network image recognition algorithmically determines the content of a given image. Emotion tracking uses sensors, computer vision, and algorithms to identify likely emotions. Predictive group sentiment analysis, predicting the likely behavior of large groups of people based on sociometric input variables, social tension, weather variation, stuff like that. And I'd say protests actually largely fuel predictive group sentiment analysis, as well as biometrics, which I'm not really getting into in this one so much. And predictive crime prevention here. So pre-crime, predictive policing, whatever, sociometric sensors coupled with neural network computers to statistically determine the probability of crime. So here you have Francois Collier, the head of the Standards Council of Canada, also a member of the IEC. Internet of Things systems are key enablers of smart everything everywhere. Which again is smart payments, smart healthcare, smart buildings, smart transport, etc. Bill C22, which I believe was passed already in either March or April. But basically, from street crime to national security threats, criminal activity is increasingly being enabled by digital, globalized, and sophisticated crime networks. Government of Canada has introduced an act that will keep Canadians safe. Informed by extensive consultations, the bill would strengthen Canada's laws and support law enforcement with new tools to investigate serious threats, disrupt organized crime, and protect their communities. So essentially, the bill enabled the police to have more powers that I don't know too much about the bill, but it would basically enable them to use different technologies under the excuse of disrupting organized crime and that sort of a thing, where it just allows for more invasive tools, that sort of a thing. So it goes hand in hand with the idea of predictive policing, which has been in play for, let's say, approximately at least 10 years in Canada, maybe more. But, you know, it wasn't, I'm not sure when it was that the OPP and Calgary police, for instance, started using Palantir Gotham. But anyway, this here from the Department of Justice, Predicting Crime, Review of Research. So the future of crime is split into three categories. Advances in technology continue to provide criminals with tools to facilitate the commission of traditional crimes like theft, money laundering, and counterfeiting. And technology itself will be the target of criminal offenses, whether it's spreading computer viruses or the theft of telecom devices. New technology will also be used to prevent or deter criminal attack. So it says new technology will allow individuals and small groups to commit crimes previously beyond their means while minimizing the risks inherent in offending, and it'll provide easier access to systems, premises, goods, etc., and increase anonymity and enhance the ability of offenders to avoid detection. So essentially, the whole point is that when technology changes, the landscape of crime changes. You're not really reducing crime in and of itself by building a new tool. You're just changing the landscape of crime in and of itself. So all of these things that I spoke about are all part of the Biodigital Convergence. Of course, the merging of biological life with digital components, which is in 4 categories in the Nano-Bio-Info-Cogno experiment. Nano for nanotechnology and nanoscience. Bio for biotechnology, gene editing, and that sort of a thing. And info for IT, advanced computing. And then cogno for cognitive science, like neuroscience, psychology, that sort of a thing. So, yeah, all in all, the Peel Police board do not want criticism of predictive policing or anybody who really understands the technology and what's going on, but even though they rejected my delegation and played some mind games with me, I would encourage others to still submit things relating to their agendas, and all in all, and as well do this in your local city council as well. I mean, not all cities necessarily have a police board that, allows someone to delegate, saying that in serious air quotes here because of, my situation where I had quite clearly followed their criteria and was still declined. But there will be pressure put on them nonetheless if people are forward and actually show they understand the technologies, those who are involved in pushing them, like the international standards organizations, and showing how these technologies are part of a much bigger picture, because predictive policing and its various facets like neural network computing, group sentiment analysis, and that sort of a thing are all just slivers of the biodigital convergence in and of itself. We've not really covered anything from like gene editing and that sort of a thing in this video. So thanks everyone for watching and for the support, and I am willing to help anyone delegate in your area locally, and as well Jane Scott is willing to do the same. So thanks everyone for watching, and take care of yourselves.